And we start the last trial day of this case in the last 2 or 3 videos. This is the defendant lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? Well, either she's still in jail or she ran off. And where's Emma, for that matter? Almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth! Knowing you've already figured it out. Yeah, everybody's being very considerate and giving us some alone time. How nice of them. Who the owner of the Septuple 7 ID number is? Oh, yeah. I did. So I guess they're not being considerate and leaving us alone. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. Well, it doesn't really take a whole lot to figure out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for the dad on this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. Yeah, that's a stupid restriction this case gives us, and it makes no sense. True. Not yet. In any event, once all that has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling on the defendant. 5 minutes after the trial starts, Lana will be found guilty. Good. Good. I really don't want to spend a lot of time on trial today. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. When has Phoenix ever not said his guy didn't do it? Case 2 4 doesn't count because technically it hasn't happened yet, and 2 because... well, the guy didn't do it. There's a difference between hiring somebody and killing somebody yourself. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Yeah, Edgeworth is totally different. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL-9 incident. Don't be stupid, today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, right? This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant? Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Auntie. Been back to the pool yet? What is it with everybody getting into water? Jeez. I'm sure I know it's summer right now, but there, it's winterish. No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. That's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She's a defendant! Why did she ask you? Why isn't she saying the defendant has a statement to make? Why didn't she talk to her lawyer, or just plain address the judge to begin with? She doesn't need to ask permission of the chief of police to talk. Plus, we all know she's not going to reveal her blackmail reasons yet. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. I disagree. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and we'll be finished.
Well then, what's your request?
Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. Yes, it does. If the defendant says, you know what? I change my mind. I don't want to be considered not guilty for this anymore. I change my plea. That means the defense's plea has changed. You work for her. If what she says goes. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But, Lana? Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. That's what I do all the time! Why are you, I don't know, praising the prosecution for that? I could have done the same thing on the defense's side. I would like to render your verdict now, if you please.
Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. Your request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise.
This can't be happening.
It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
One moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. What are you talking about reasonable doubt before? The defense is proving way beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant didn't do things, but the prosecution is only happy if it does go beyond reasonable doubt? That makes no sense. Then again, they're just prologuing things here. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature, and we hate prematurity. Oh, come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant.
What?
Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With a sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal? Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness.
Oh, to whom?
As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hear her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to... I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. Be a good woman and sit down and let the men do the job. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it.
Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant?
Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. By the way, yes, this is a change that is a retcon. You know how in 2.4 And sort of 3-5, the fact that Edgeworth was more concerned about finding the truth was a big character development for him, rather than just being concerned about his court records or, trial winnings. That was changed here. Edgeworth now really always looked for the truth, which really ruins the characterization and development he received in 2-4. So yeah, this is another problem with this case.
My name is Emma Sky. My occupation, I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator.
2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct?
Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time.
Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant?
Yes, it most certainly is.
Well, okay then.
Guess I was a bit faster than him. He sure gave in fast. Oh, we all give in to Edgeworth immediately. Especially when he looks at us. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. Oh, aren't you clever, Phoenix? It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. The truth!
I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does his testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder?
That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Well, you're kind of the same in every other case, so... Good job with the courage, Phoenix.
Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination.
Two years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct?
Yes, she was second in command under Chief Detective Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever.
Yes, I remember. Chief Detective Gant and Miss Sky used to be quite the pair.
I believe they shared the same office.
That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day too.
The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day.
Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work.
So the chief detective's office already had an organ in it? Okay. A man?
Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer.
Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. I thought he came in on his own free will. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. So, do you mean decisive evidence, or evidence to begin with?
When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right?
Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Okay, unless the elevator he got into was already pushed to go up. Dark is an idiot for pushing the up button to go up instead of down. Or whichever direction the exit was. He sucks at running away. Then he ran to Sky and Gant's office.
There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look.
But everybody said he charged, and now you say that you opened the door? And then he came charging in? What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Detective Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Gant was there too? Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony.
I assumed that would also be why he was the first to run after Dirk.
When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead.
And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in?
I don't clearly remember what happened then. But
can you tell us about that?
Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights.
It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby.
So the electricity went out?
Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Well, immediately a few seconds afterwards, no, but after a while your eyes do get used to the darkness and you can't see silhouettes and shapes. Also, it depends on how much light could possibly be coming in from the inside. I mean the outside, in from the windows.
Yes, but just then lightnings flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of this scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman? The victim. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago?
Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial.
And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw?
Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out.
So if you can't tell him, you can't really say anything.
That's why I drew a picture.
Which really sounds like something a child psychologist would ask a 5-year-old to do, rather than a detective who doesn't really work with psychology and wouldn't really ask this from a 14-year-old. A picture. I think she mentioned that before.
Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough?
Never! This picture the witness drew. I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture.
Witness, would you mind if we added the statement to your testimony?
Yes, Your Honor.
As I've said before, it's here. A picture is drawn on the back of the evidence list in magic marker. I've got a really bad feeling about this. Yeah, I probably should have checked that earlier, but yeah, why not? Mr. Edgeworth? This little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you still insist on denying its existence? Blech. I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold!
This is the evidence list for the SL-9 incident?
Please turn it over, Your Honor.
Turn it over? Turn it... Oh! What's this?
Yes, what is that?
It's the amazing polygon artistry of Final Fantasy VII! Behold its amazingness!
Hey, that's it. That's a picture I drew.
And you drew this on the back of an evidence list.
Indeed, two men appear to be wrestling here.
All I see is Blocky Man A holding something that looks like a ruler, and Blocky Man B. But seriously, she drew this at the back of an evidence list? What, did Goodman not have some sort of scrap paper lying around? That's kind of dumb. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list?
Me?
Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list.
Eh? These lists, they're different from each other.
What?
It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other.
Oh, Edgeworth and Phoenix's power of love reunites the list to one. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you.
Who'd have thought the picture would have been drawn on the back of the evidence list?
That was handed to Detective Goodman in the questioning room?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I mean, if it was handed to him, she must have known that it was probably something important, so why did she grab it and draw on the back of it? If this list was torn in half, then... Your Honor.
You are right, Mr. Wright. Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth.
That's possible. Let's see. I think he's constipated.
Is something wrong?
Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is something wrong on the back of my list. This is that thing. No! Ah, that fucking music!
That's that thing! That thing that was dancing in the evidence room.
Apparently the head of criminal affairs used this for his blueprint. I guess he was out of scrap paper.
Very well. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor.
What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she saw the picture.
This is the picture I drew 2 years ago.
She's only talking about one picture part of it, so the top part wasn't drawn up by her?
The flash of lighting was so bright all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw at that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind.
It wasn't a flash of lightning, but the image of the fire on the stove is certainly in my mind. Actually, now that I think about it, when it isn't so dangerous, looked actually kinda pretty. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder Prosecutor Neil Marshall.
Nope. It shows Blocky Man A about to do something to Blocky Man B.
The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Did you draw this picture right after the incident?
I think I drew 2 or 3 days later. At first I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything.
During that time, the detective team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in your mind.
Excuse me, witness. But can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black?
So at the time you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue?
No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor.
You were knocked to the floor?
Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed.
So... Dark was holding you hostage, probably saying, "A step closer and I'll kill this girl." And Marcia was all like, "Screw that girl, I'm gonna jump you anyway." Completely disregarding your potential safety. Weird. Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place?
No, I'm sorry.
The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? Yes! I will torture her and I will enjoy it! Hey, I'm not the bad guy here.
Anyway, the picture...
Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw?
Of course, this is the exact scene!
It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detective? That's a pretty good question. 'Cause that is a possibility that they said, "Did you see them stab him? Or did you see this?" And that could muddle with your memory. Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I'd better watch out, or you might find some way to cut my salary.
I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture?
Huh? Well... It's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind. And yet... there's clearly a contradiction here. Okay, I thought it was a switchblade I had to show. Yeah. My mind is jumping ahead again. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction.
What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, Perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report?
The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. It's a bloody blocky ruler. That's not a knife. That's not a knife. This is a knife! If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken.
In fact, you don't even have to look closely to see that.
But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence to prove Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Where could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. So technically, we could say that the problem isn't that the knife is broken off. We could also say this picture isn't the instance of the murder happening, or the murder happening a split second later, because Blocky Man B over here is facing Blocky Man A, so he would be stabbed in the chest and not the back. So, that's, another thing. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken.
What's the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. Yeah, it's not like somebody can just, plant the tip in there. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there.
That's right, but what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence? You're treating on thin ice, right? All I'm saying is that this broken knife might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. It's possible, not probable. Those are two different things, Edgy. I mean, Phoenix. Whichever one you are.
Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted?
Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. Okay. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During the questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie.
I'm not lying. This man really was holding up a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being two broken knives?
Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's, which at that point was actually not broken. There's the difference. Could there have been one? If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by simple observational error.
Mr. Wright.
In that instance, Emma really did see a broken knife.
I assume then that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us.
The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. No kidding, I thought the answer to this case that was 2 years ago was actually 3 years in the past. Right here inside the picture. This is a picture of the awards.
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding.
That's a broken knife.
Actually, I think it's supposed to be more of a broken halberd. Like a sword. Not really a knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the picture was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood the award. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given the broken shield and a broken knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out the knife. So, the knife on the trophy was actually in a scabbard? Or are you saying that it's actually something that can be taken off of the trophy easy peasy with no extra force? Or are you telling me Neil Marshall was so freaking strong like the Hulk that he just grabbed the sword and ripped it off of the trophy, which, despite it being bronze, was probably not sharp enough to actually work as a murder weapon? I'm just wondering, how the hell did Neil Marshall take the knife, or the broken knife, whatever you want to call it, off the trophy? Just, if he can't do it just so, like it's nothing, then it was probably not properly attached, and what the fuck kind of stupid trophy is that then? Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. Yes, I can't think of any land that allows prosecutors to carry a pistol so easy peasy. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was a murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Yeah, it's not like Joe Dark could have wrestled the broken knife out of his hand. Just saying. Oh.
But the prosecutor was the one who actually died.
That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Wait, I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth,
What?
could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it. This picture, I'm the one who drew it.
Yes, we already know. That... Why is this being mentioned? You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget.
I'm trying very hard to forget this music.
I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we add this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you recalled, Miss Sky?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up, now the blue badger? This should be interesting. This'll be painful.
When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed towards both of them. I think I knocked away the man with a knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw a shadow.
This is certainly most unusual.
Try impossible. The head detective of the criminal affairs didn't even design him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Yes, well, the defense may now begin its
Stop, please. Don't pursue this any further. Lana, don't. For all you know, you're this close to actually showing a human emotion. Lana!
What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back.
Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant.
Seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark?
Yes, at least I think it was him.
You think?
All I could really see were shadows.
The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports.
So then you...
Why would you do something so dangerous? Adrenaline, reflexes, instincts, lots of reasons that are based on non-brain action. You just do it.
What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall.
She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But that was just theorized. Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife.
Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was I've got to help Mr. Marshall.
What do you mean, you think?
It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What it did, it's all kind of a blur.
In a matter of just a few seconds, Miss Sky was almost killed. Then she witnessed a murder about to take place. A little disorientation is only natural.
I saw the man about to stab the other person who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife.
What you did was very brave, young girl.
Are you sure about this?
Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here.
But the head detective of criminal affairs thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The Blue Badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable.
I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember.
Oh, brother. Just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all? Screw you, Phoenix.
That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns.
This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she was what she did. What? And I suppose you have an explanation? If so, then by all means, please show us what the shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when the lightning flashed? Who was the blue badger, really? The blue badger hadn't even been dreamed up when Emma drew this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Too many sounds. It is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room.
Mr. Wright!
In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us this mysterious blue badger look-alike.
The mysterious blue badger was in fact this.
But that's... what exactly is that?
I believe it's some sort of jar.
But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger.
Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. Quite honestly, part of me thinks it's more of a vase. But what if we were to change our viewpoint?
Our viewpoint?
I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this form. Oh my god, no. I have turned my earphones off. Was it? It was something like... Well, is this a miracle or what?
Please, no more music of this.
No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger.
No, it can't be. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this.
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed. Very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw the jar? Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. Not only that, but she saw it at a very specific angle. Knowing this, where could she have seen the jar?
Where?
The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. By the way, you see that armor there? Very sharp. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified it so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marcia did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying the murder removed the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason.
Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright?
I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Yeah, I really am concerned about Lana and protecting her and all that. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instance, the jar was hit and flew through the air. That sort of jar, if you bumped into it, would fall over and then roll off whatever surface it was on. It wouldn't fly kamikaze Superman style in a high arch very far. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying?
That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? Lana's boob?
The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous looking sword.
That's a spear, Your Honor. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall wielding the prosecutor's award. Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes. There is another possibility of what actually transpired in that moon.
Another possibility?
Of course the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless. I don't know if I can go through with this. Aren't you the one who just said it was too late to back off? Just do it!
Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall, yeah, a 14-year-old with noodle arms would totally be able to shove a guy that far into a suit of armor.
You mean Miss Marshall died because of me? No!
That girl sure is good at fainting. I never imagined her testimony would lead to this.
So it was the witch who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
I guess somebody swept Emma away. What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. Oh, snap. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, didn't you?
I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall?
Evidence?
I'm willing to bet you don't.
This is gonna be really done later. Actually, in a few minutes.
Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence.
If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony.
I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead.
We certainly can't get dead people to testify. Yeah, what do you think I have? A spirit channeler with me at all times? Oh, except for this case, but, you know, we could get her back. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Sky. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility?
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. I really wish that video games and books and TV series and movies and whatnot would stop trying to make us think that would work. This is the second or third time that this game is trying to make us think final message left by the victim. Danganronpa did that in the first case, where I'm sort of semi-willing to ignore it because that was a tutorial case and was made very, very easy, although the next few cases weren't all that more difficult to figure out. But I've said it before. Agatha Christie and Poirot in Death on Denial already pointed out that this is the sort of convenient message left behind by the victim pointing at their murderer. And there it was treated as a joke, as something that was not count as conclusive evidence at all. There it was done by, there it was done when the murder was, cause of death was shot to the temple, right to the temple. You generally don't, live very long if you get shot right in the temple. Here, it's done after being stabbed onto the spear of a suit of armor. Yes, it says died from blood loss in under 10 minutes. That's true. I will not deny that. Blood loss can take about 10 minutes depending on how big the wound and if it's plugged or whatnot. But it still doesn't work here because, well, as Lana reveals, when she came in, she saw Marshall hanging on, the suit of armor. So given that idea, it would have had to mean that Marshall was pushed by Emma onto that spear, was, fully penetrated there. Ha ha, penetration. And then the jar that flew through the air and landed on the floor and suspiciously didn't break at that part. So he got up from the suit of armor, proceeded to write her name onto the jar, and then put himself back onto the suit of armor. I hope you realize how dumb it sounds when I just explain that this is what they supposedly think happened. So, yes, if you're ever going to write mystery stories, don't use the victim dying message thing as a serious thing. If you want to make fun of it, by all means, go ahead and do that. Just don't make us try to think it's something we're supposed to take seriously, okay? Okay. I really needed to get this off my chest. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life. Somehow. That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist?
I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind is in the evidence. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Also, why are you still even here? She already fired you. You have no reason to be in this courtroom anymore. Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to excuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek. The truth. We reach out to the truth. Wait, no, that was not the Persona 4 song. But you know what I mean. We reach out to the truth all our life. I really messed up with the rhythm and the melody there.
Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased.
This is the message left behind by the deceased.
This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? Oh my god, the blue badger is a freaking spirit channeler. If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here on the surface of this jar.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on the jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there is a line here drawn in blood.
So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect the points, and the victim's message will become apparent.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us?
Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal for us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim could have written, given the circumstances. The murderer's name. Oh, I can't put the E together. Sadness. Meh. Not very nice, but fuck it. It looks close enough to Emma. What do you think? I came up with this message.
Yes, I feel like I'm teaching handwriting to a student who is all thumbs.
Oh, come on, it looked close enough like Emma. I think you should make him write out I won't do it again 100 times. With blood! I never was much good at handwriting. I still say it was close enough to Emma. It's a defense's attorney's duty to prove his client innocent. No! A defense attorney's duty is to give his client the best defense the lawyer himself can give them, and to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they, with evidence and testimony, did not do the deed with which they are charged for. You got your job duties wrong. No wonder you fuck up so badly in case 2-4. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. Yes, you were so important about Lana. You totally did not forget about her in any moment. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind.
Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end the one who took the victim's life
was Emma Sky. See, Worthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you're the prosecutor in that case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. He killed multiple people. At least he died for the ones that he committed, even if he didn't commit this one, supposedly. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. If he doesn't know that it's, forged evidence, he can't actually be deemed responsible for that. Especially if the supervisor gave him that. No! Phoenix, quick, do the Heimlich maneuver! But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. No! No, it doesn't. And I stand by it. Joe Dark killed people. Who gives a flying fuck if he was convicted for the wrong murder, if you will, as long as he was still put to death and sort of revenged, if you will, or avenged the murders that he did commit. It's like, if you stole this much, what would one more really matter? Despite what anyone may say, this fact can't be denied. You shut your fucking mouth. I'm already sick and tired of you. And you're just gonna be more there. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. Yes, the guy who totally killed, 5 people! Totally is innocent. The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows.